Welcome to the scapula and clavicle. First, we're going to cover the features of the scapula. As you can see, we have our list here, and then we'll cover the couple of features that we're going to want to know on the clavicle. So first off, I'm holding this scapula so that we are looking at the posterior side. The reason we know it's the posterior side is because we see this portion sticking out called the scapular spine. Just like your spine is on your back, the spine of the scapula is on the back of the scapula. So this is our scapular spine. To figure out if you're looking at a left or a right, I just look at which direction is the scapular spine pointing up to. So this scapular spine is pointing up to the right, so we're looking at a right scapula. If we follow this scapular spine, it's going to take us to a process called the acromion process. You can then see this process here a bit anterior and below called the coracoid process. And then there's this smooth depression here called the glenoid fossa. Remember, fossa is depression. And this glenoid fossa and the smoothness here is going to articulate with the head of our humerus, so our ball and socket joint functions as such. Personally, I like to think about them in alphabetical order, A, C, G, so kind of from top to bottom: acromion process, coracoid process, glenoid fossa. I'm going to turn back to the posterior side so that we're looking at the back of our scapula again. This time we're going to look to the top of it. You'll see that there is a smooth depression here. Again, depression being that term fossa. Because it's above the spine, this is going to be called our supraspinous fossa. So supra meaning above, spinous, above the spine, fossa is a depression. Similarly, we have our infraspinous fossa. So if we go to the underside of our spine, we have this smooth depression here, and this is going to be our infraspinous fossa. That's on the posterior side. I'm going to flip to the anterior side. This section here, we have another nice depression. This is our subscapular fossa. And if you're looking at the subscapular fossa, I personally think it's easiest to locate the borders when you're looking at the subscapular fossa, so the anterior side. You can do whatever you prefer, but I'm just going to show you the borders from this view. So first off, we have our superior border running across the top. We then have our medial border. So this is kind of like the blade portion of your scapula. So, they call it the shoulder blade because it's like the blade of an axe. So medial border. You have the inferior angle, and then you have the lateral border, which leads us to our glenoid fossa. Okay. Now, if we keep this scapula in the anterior position, we can line up our clavicle so that the it's kind of just above the coracoid process, but then if we look kind of at a lateral view, it's going to be kind of in line with the acromion process. Because it's right by that acromion process, this is going to be the acromial end, right? And when you turn that acromial end over, you'll see there's a very prominent bump here. That's going to be our conoid tubercle. And then finally, where the clavicle meets up with the sternum at the clavicular notches, we have the sternal end. So acromial end, conoid tubercle, sternal end.